It's a check-in on every single thing that you're thinking of doing. Is it a hell yes or a hell no? And it's not no maybes. And then when you do articulate your need and want, don't over-explain. Don't convince or justify. Keep it short and simple.
Just a quick note before we start the full episode. If you're listening and thinking, I really need some of this guidance in my own life, my coaching program Rise is where I support women through these kinds of transitions in a more personal way. I'll leave the details in the show notes if you'd like to explore it. Hello and welcome to Midlife Answers. I'm Rachel Fortune. This is the Midlife podcast where each episode focuses on one question many of us quietly ask ourselves in our 40s and beyond, offering clear insight and practical next steps, all in around 15 minutes. Today's question is one I imagine many women recognise, even if we don't always say it out loud. How do I stop caring what other people think? By the time we reach midlife, many of us have spent years being the dependable one, the good daughter, supportive partner, responsible parent, reliable colleague. But somewhere along the way, it can become easy to lose sight of our own voice, quietly shaping our decisions around other people's expectations or approval. So why does that fear of judgment still hold so much power, even when part of us knows we want to live more freely and authentically? To explore this, I'm joined by Tara Lynn, a transformational coach who helps people recognize the beliefs and patterns that keep them playing small, and how to start trusting themselves again. Together, we'll unpack where this fear of judgment often begins, why it can linger well into midlife, and the simple step you can take to start living more in line with what feels right for you. Welcome, Tara. Well, there is a lot to unpack here. So let's start with, why do so many women feel that they are being judged, even in midlife, when we're supposed to feel more confident? We've lived through so much, but why are we having these feelings?
I think for me, it goes right back to the kind of primal human condition, which is that we're hardwired for connection. We're supposed to be in communities, tribes, families, groups. We're not supposed to live on our own or be isolated. So therefore, we've got this real battle between authenticity and belonging.
Oh,
So
yeah.
belonging says, I've made a decision that if I behave this certain way, I'm going to be allowed to stay connected and in the tribe. But the irony is that sometimes those strategies that we chose in order to stay connected actually start to feel not of service to ourselves, but they're stored in our body as patterns and ways of being.
Do you think it also goes back to our childhood as well, Tara, and our childhood expectations, people pleasing, social pressure? Does all that play a part in it as well?
Yeah, so if you think by the time you're, your age, you're a bit younger than me, or my age, I'm 50. I've had 50 years of conditioning, which is now stored in my nervous system. So we've got this logical brain that tells us, I want this and I want that, and it's okay for me to say no, and it's okay for me to say yes to that. But the body tells us another story, which is, I'm either safe or I'm not safe. And that's been built up over decades of conditioning to go, when I say no, or when I voice my opinion, or when I want to do this, that feels uncomfortable in my body. And we don't like being uncomfortable. We don't like experiencing discomfort. And so we've got these two systems going on. One is this logical brain that says, oh, but I want that. And then there's this body that betrays us or sends us signals to try and keep us safe. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't be like that. Because actually, if you do that, you're not going to be safe. So it's a nervous system sort of challenge. And I love the quote by James Clear: we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So here we are with a system that actually we haven't allowed ourselves to evolve, that's playing tricks with us, which means that we're over caring and over considering and over anxious about other people's thoughts and opinions.
And I'm very much, I would consider myself a people pleaser, Tara.
Yeah.
But there are other people that, and this is not a negative thing to say, who I don't think are people pleasers. So
Yeah.
do you think some are born people pleasers and others aren't, or is it more nurture opposed to nature?
Well, The people pleasing and the non people pleasing are the same problem, which is I'm going to protect myself with a certain strategy. So the people who don't people please, who shut down, retreat, and block off, isolate, actually are still having a problem, which is they're not fully alive or fully authentic. The people who are people pleasing, they look like really nice people, right? Generous, kind, sweet, but they also have the same problems. They're not fully alive and not fully authentic. So these are nervous systems adaptations that we took on that mean that we're actually not fully alive or fully authentic. Now, it's lovely to be a great person whilst not being fully alive or fully authentic,
Yes, absolutely.
rather than a not nice person, right? But we're still having the same challenge,
Sure.
right? Which is that really we're not really living to the fullness of what's available to us and what we desire and want, because the more that we allow ourselves to have, the more we're able to give. And so the irony is, if you want to be a people pleaser, that's great. Give yourself loads and people please you first, and then you'll be able to give even more to the world, to your family, to your community, to whatever. And this is the rub where actually we've got it wrong, that we think that there's not an abundance of energy, time, love, money. And so we're living in a state of lack, which says that actually I can only give to others. There's no space for me.
And that's not true. There is space for both.
There's space for both, but you would have to choose that, which is going to feel uncomfortable in your body because it's different to what you've done before. So when you've decided that the safest strategy is this, and this was my strategy, is if everyone around me is safe and comfortable and happy, I will finally feel safe and comfortable and happy.
Yeah.
And that's where we're caring about what other people think, when
Sure.
actually we're trying to control the external in order to control our internal, when actually we want to start with our internal and then go out to the external.
Well, let's start with that internal first. If you've grown up or you're at a stage in midlife where you do feel that you are not wanting to say the wrong thing in fear of upsetting someone or believing someone else's truth over your own, how do we recognize that? Because you can start to distrust your own inner voice, can't you? So, how do you really build up that confidence? How do you really talk to yourself and say, you are valid. What you are saying is completely worth being said or being thought about.
It's not an ability problem, it's a competence problem, right? You haven't practiced
Okay.
it enough over time. So if I said to you, "Are you able to drive a car?" You'd be like, "Yeah, of course I am," because you've been practicing it for years, right? If I said to you, "Look, could you climb Kilimanjaro?" You go, "Yeah, not right now." But I said, "Well, if you trained for a year, could you climb Kilimanjaro?" And you go, "Yeah, I could." So climbing Kilimanjaro is what it feels like sometimes, right?
Yeah,
'Cause you go,
sure.
oh my God, actually voicing my opinion, having clear boundaries feels like a mountain to climb. But actually, imagine climbing that mountain and what it would feel like at the top. So, competency requires practice over time, which would mean that you would have to decide what you want to practice and get competent at, which means you would have to figure out what you even want. And we're back to that same question. What do I want? How do I live in alignment with that? And then the really important piece I think for women in midlife is we can get punchy, prickly, edgy, shouty, scary, angry, or shut down at this stage. So we can get a bit like in wanting to voice our needs and desires, we can become quite shrill or quite victimy.
Yes, exactly. And it's not it's none of it is intentional, is it? It's almost
No.
it's almost a reaction because
Yeah.
you're wanting to be heard in so many
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah. Like, so you're almost screaming really rude words, which I won't use on your podcast. Yeah, but, this can't be it. This isn't fair. What about me? What about, and of course, actually, we're the ones who adapted that strategy and made that happen. So we're responsible for changing it. And we're responsible for managing our anger and our frustration and our disappointment and our grief and the sadness and the loss of our youth and the loss of our,
Yeah.
our children are growing up and our parents are getting older. So it's our responsibility to go, wow, I'm having these big, massive feelings. And I'm noticing that I'm desiring and wanting something different to what other people may want from me. And it's okay for me to do that with grace and love and intellect and kindness and thoughtfulness, that actually it's okay to have a different want and need to other people. They're not going to disconnect from you or not belong from you when you do it in a beautiful way.
Because I was going to say that I think for people listening, and I'm definitely taking this on board myself, is that if you want to speak up in certain situations, sometimes you can feel that if you do speak up, it's going to be a negative thing. When
Yeah.
actually, when you contribute to a conversation or to just a decision, then that surely is a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what is it that we should be doing? Is it just practicing? Is it practicing it? Is it just saying to ourselves, right, I'm going to speak up this. I'm just going to say this time. Are those the steps that we should be taking?
I don't think we were given good scripts and good language of how to do this. I think we're hardwired to the negative. So we find it easier to say what's missing, what I don't want, what I don't like, what feels uncomfortable, what upsets me, what frustrates me. And for every single negative thing you say, we need to say 5 positive things to make up for that. So one of the things I work on with my clients is that all the language that we use should be positive, constructive, that should be forward moving, that should be useful, helpful, kind, even if it's saying something that's really uncomfortable, really hard to hear, really honest. And yet we were scripted language, as little children, which was, I don't like this. I don't want this doesn't feel right. This isn't fair. Like saying this isn't fair is completely useless statement because and I've got senior business women going in to do, salary negotiations at CEO level say, it's not fair. It's like, it isn't fair, but that's not a good piece of language to use to get what you want, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
And
let's
so we
talk
want
about.
to say, I love this and I love more of this. I love it when this happens and this is wonderful. Oh, it's so delightful when I get to do this. And I'm so excited to do more of this. And I love it when you suggest that. And it was so wonderful when you did that. And you don't go on about the lack, you go on about the abundance.
Yeah, if you talk about the abundance though, how does that work when it comes to not people pleasing? Are you not agreeing, but are you just remaining positive? Because I think when people pleasing, you automatically think that you might be being negative to
Yeah.
yourself. You're holding back. Whereas if you switch that language to abundance and you remain positive, therefore you're going to, whether you agree with what was being said or not, you're going to have some clarity and some reassurance that it's okay to keep having these thoughts yourself.
Yeah, so competency requires a script that you're going to follow, and then you would practice that script. So, for
Okay.
example, oh, how lovely to be invited. I can't make it this time. No explaining, no convincing, no justifying. It's lovely to be invited. Oh, what a lovely idea. Oh, enjoy it because I can't make it this time. Like it's just so simple. And yet we go into explaining, convincing, and justifying or where we get stuck because the more we talk, then the more we get caught up in this anxiety in our body. So if there's one takeaway for everyone, in my opinion, is talk less, say less.
Yeah.
Just say, "Oh, that's so lovely. I can't make it." Full stop. "Oh, how wonderful. Enjoy it. I hope I can come the next time." You know, so explaining, convincing, and justifying are going to keep you stuck in people pleasing and caring about what other people think, because now you're in a trap of the context and content problem about over explaining why you have a want and need. You don't need to explain. There's no explanation required.
Isn't it funny we feel that we have to keep on talking? And I am a big one that just talks sometimes for the sake of talking and just needs to shut. I remember I took myself out of a pay rise for that exact reason. My boss was asking me, and I said, I think I know I've done this, this, and this, and I would like to negotiate a pay rise. And he didn't talk. He just sat there in silence. So I carried on talking and ended up saying, well, maybe we'll review this in 6 months. And he was like, oh, sure. So I was like, we've gone
Yeah.
full circle. And I'm now leaving the room without a pay rise, but a meeting in 6 months to potentially discuss another pay rise. So
Yeah,
it's
and
so
just to finish
true.
on that note is I'm so excited to come up with a way of me being remunerated at the level that I want to be remunerated. And I'm looking forward to us coming up with a really great solution for that. What are your thoughts? And then you're handing it straight over to the other person, right? And then you sit and you close your mouth. And of course, what we do is not all women, but I definitely was an over explainer. We keep talking.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and this is where caring what other people think, when you overtalk, actually what you're doing is you're giving away too much data and too much information when actually you've already made a decision. It's a hell yes or a hell no. There's no maybes.
Yeah. On that note, then, Tara, we are going to finish up. I'm going to stop talking, but I would like to have your last note over to you in that if you could just sum up in one sentence, how can people who think that they are people pleasing, doing something for others and not listening to their own truth, what can they start doing as of today to live more authentically?
It's a check-in on every single thing that you're thinking of doing. Is it a hell yes or a hell no? And it's not no maybes. And then when you do articulate your need and want, don't over explain. Don't convince or justify. Keep it short and simple.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara. I'm going to put your details in the show notes because you can talk for hours about this in the right way, giving us the right context. And so I will put your details in the show notes and people can get in touch with you directly that way.
Thanks so much, Rachel.
You know, this is one of those conversations that really stayed with me after we finished recording. Because if I'm being completely honest, I'm definitely one of those people. Overthinking what I say, replaying conversations, wondering if I upset anyone, or if I should have handled something differently. And I think in midlife, there's this real shift where part of you starts to question that pattern and think, well, hang on a minute here, is this actually how I want to keep living? And what I loved about this conversation with Tara is how it is reframed. It's not that there's something wrong with you if you care what people think. It's that you've learned to care in a way to feel safe, to belong, and to stay connected. But the takeaway for me is that you don't have to stay stuck there. It can start really simply, checking in with yourself. Is this a hell yes or a hell no situation? And then saying what you need to say without over-explaining, without justifying, without tying yourself in knots trying to make everyone else comfortable. It sounds simple, I know, but as you've heard today, it's something we practice. And the more we practice it, the easier it becomes to trust ourselves again. If this episode resonated, or if you're sitting with your own midlife questions right now, there are more episodes of Midlife Answers waiting for you, each one focused on one question at a time, with practical, thoughtful guidance to help you move forward. You might also find it helpful to listen to episodes around confidence, friendship boundaries, and those moments where you feel a bit stuck or unsure of yourself, because they're all part of the same bigger picture. And I love hearing from you. So if you've got a midlife question you'd love us to cover in a future bite-sized episode, send it to me on Instagram at Midlife Answers or through the link in the show notes. On the next episode, we're getting into a topic I know comes up again and again. What are the best workouts to lose belly fat after 40? What actually works, what doesn't, and how to approach exercise in a way that really supports your body in midlife. Thank you so much for listening, and again, thank you to Tara for joining me today. And if you know someone who might need this episode, please do share it with them. Midlife can feel confusing at times and even a little isolating, but you don't have to figure it out on your own. This space is here for you.